This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novellie. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, or email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. So Jerry Lee Lewis died. I know the papers are going to be... Can I read you the BBC obituary?
Please.
Jerry Lee Lewis, a toxic cocktail of scandal and violence.
Oh my God.
Whatever happened to R.I.P.? They've learnt their lesson, haven't they?
I think they
He's not going to get too affectionate documentaries.
I think they just say that of everyone now, just to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. Just to be safe.
Yeah.
I have to say, of course, we all love the BBC, but they completely destroyed Strictly Come Dancing last week with their terrible 100th anniversary. They had people dancing to like the Casualty theme.
Oh no.
Do you know what?
Stop it.
I turned it on, Frank, and I thought, what on earth is going on? It's like News 24 and things.
That's one of them. I remember Jed Mercurio, who wrote Line of Duty, telling me that in the RAF, or just in fly in general, I wish I could remember the term, someone out there might know it, but sometimes a plane will fly into a mountain because there's two people in the cockpit, and one thinks, will he say anything if we're going to really fly into the mountain? And the other one thinks, well, she'd say anything if we're going to think. And then you just fly into the mountain. And I think that they had the meeting about dancing to TV themes and nobody said anything and they just carried on and they just crashed into the mountain. Let's celebrate our 100th anniversary by destroying our most popular show.
Did any of them work, Frank, the dancers?
No. Without doubt, the worst Strictly Come Dancing episode I've ever seen in my life.
What was the worst one?
The worst. Well, you know, I love the Doctor Who theme, but it's quite hard to Charleston to it. And they had to. They danced to the Blue Peter theme and diddle. You know. Anyway, look, I know a lot of people out there don't watch Strictly, but you should watch that one because sometimes when stuff's really embarrassing, it's good to watch. Jerry Lee Lewis, who died, I have to say, I saw him about 20 times live from Wembley to Memphis, Tennessee. I saw him.
Did you?
I saw him in Memphis before. It was a big Lennox Lewis fight. I think it might have been Lewis Holyfield in Memphis. I think it was Holyfield.
Very
Jerry
lovely
Lee.
Peak 90s fixture, that.
And we went to see Jerry Lee the night before. And he spent the first 10 minutes moaning about how much boxers get paid compared to what he got paid. Really going on about it.
A toxic cocktail.
I saw him arrive at a gig in Cheltenham.
Yeah, were you watching Top Gear before?
He was in a convertible Cadillac with enormous cow horns on the front.
Like a cartoon.
Can't have been yeah, he was a bit of a cartoon. Massive cigar about a foot long. Wowee. Like I say, he was a bad man. I had the chance to meet him in Memphis, and I said no, because I think if he shoots at me, retrospectively, that's going to spoil my enjoyment of his music.
Did he do that quite often to people?
He did a bit of shooting at people. I think he threatened Dennis Quaid with a gun when he played him in the film.
Elvis did that a lot, didn't he? It's another one of your heroes.
Well, Jerry Lee crashed his gates into his car into the gates at Graceland, got out waving a car, drunk I think, and shouted, "Come on out, Elvis, and we'll see who's the king of rock and roll." Oh my God. Anyway, enough Jerry Lee
Agree
Lewis.
with the obituary.
Yeah.
But I will miss
he's
him.
ramming the gates of heaven now.
Yes.
Come on out, God.
He is, yeah. We'll see who's God. Oh, there's one more. There's a great, when they this week they've released Revolver, the Beatles album, and there's quite a bit of them talking on it, before the track plays. And there's one in Sun Recording Studios. I had a box set Mark Lamar, the comedian, recorded an entire CD box set onto cassettes for me of Jerry Lee Lewis. And you hear him talking to Sam Phillips, the boss of Sun Records, about how they're all going to burn in hellfire for making music like this, including himself. Sort of stuff I don't imagine Ed Sheeran's chewing the fat about in the studio. No. Anyway, Jerry Lee Lewis, I'll miss him if no one else does.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Boys, can I ask, actually specifically you, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about ramming the gates of heaven.
I was.
Earlier.
That was to Pierre, by the way.
Yes, as is my want.
Yes. Yes. I think that was off air.
in a hushed whisper.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful, poetic turn of phrase there. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Excuse my ignorance in advance, but I always think it's better to fess up. And I know you'll approve of fessing up, Frank.
Okay.
You know, people often, as soon as you said that, I immediately thought of St. Peter. And then I realised I only ever associate him with jokes about the gates of heaven, and I know nothing of the man. Why is he a bit of a sort of ambulance chaser? Why is he only present at the gates of heaven? That question to Frank Skinner.
I think it's because the Nazarene, Jesus, sort of gave him the keys. That was the idea.
Huge responsibility.
So his symbol is the crossed keys. So because you've got the keys, I think the presumption is that you'll be at the gate. I mean, it's not the best job, is it?
Doorman.
No.
Yes, he's essentially a bouncer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they got him doing, door work.
To be fair, his nickname is Rock.
Yeah,
he was obviously the toughest guy of the gang.
That is true, but I can't see him in a tan leather bomber jacket with a shirt and tie.
Hey, Rocky, you're going to be on the door.
No, it's he was the top man, and now he's the gatekeeper.
I can see you in a tan leather jacket, though. In fact, I have seen it.
Yes, you have. That is true. Yeah, but I'm a very unique individual. So I went to. I tell you what I did, and this is something I think a lot of absolute listeners might recognise. I went to a guitar shop, something I haven't done for a long time. When I was a teenager, every Saturday we went to guitar shops with no money, but we just looked at guitars. And I went in, and I think the same bloke who was playing in a Birmingham guitar shop in 1972 was in the one I went in, still playing the guitar. You got to have real chutzpah to play a guitar in a guitar shop, I think. Because there's liable to be
was this person a customer?
Yeah, customers go in and they sort of try a guitar. I'll tell you what was really annoying. Then another bloke came in and started trying a bass guitar. And they weren't playing the same. I thought, why don't you compliment each other? Or don't play.
Create a magical moment.
Yeah, that was great. There was a bloke doing like lead runs and then a bass. Oh.
But hang on, they're just playing this in the middle of a store.
Yeah, it's like you trying a coat on.
It is very much not like that.
It really is.
I don't disturb other people's quiet. I mean...
Well, they're all... I say no one who... I wish I had the guts to get one on and then just play. Like I was in a Chinese takeaway and the man behind the counter said, "Are you Frank?" And I said, yes. And he said, "What do you think of this shirt?" No, he didn't mean Frank. He meant my name, Frank. And he said...
Blankety blank.
He said, you play... Oh, no, he said, "Are you Frank?" And I said, yes. And then he reached underneath the counter.
Oh, Jerry Lee Lewis.
And we'll complete this after this break.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
The man in the Chinese takeaway reached underneath the counter, having established that I was called Frank, and took out a ukulele.
No.
Yeah. And said, he said, "I'm learning ukulele, will you play?" And I played, and I could see real disappointment. I mean, real. And he said, "I am currently learning the song Autumn Leaves." I said, okay. So he said, do you know it? La, 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 la. I said, I know it. And then he went, la, 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 la. I said, I know it. I do know it. So he's one of the new, obviously one of the new breed who learn the melody line, whereas us George Formby's, we just bang it as hard as we can and strum the hell out of it. And it was really like he thought I was going to play some fabulous melody and nothing came out. That's why I don't pick up guitars in guitar shops. Good night.
Whenever I've seen people playing the guitar, possibly in a park, it does happen sometimes, on a bench, it all seems to be Bad Moon Rising.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, it used to be, traditionally, of course, Stairway to Heaven people used to play in guitar shops. But Bad Moon Rising, yeah, it's quite an easy chord sequence.
Is it?
It could be.
Oh, I suddenly felt quite impressed by you that you knew about the chord sequence. Did you,
The
Pierre?
phrase chord sequence, I thought there's going to be some technical stuff coming in soon. I wasn't disappointed.
I saw you as a bit of a muso, Frank.
Just for a second, I tell you, they had band stickers. I don't mean stickers that had been banned. I mean with band logos on them. And I recognised them because Boz had you can buy a job lot off the internet and you get 100 stickers for, I think it's £8. And they were selling the same stickers £2 each. I mean, £2 each, as they say at Hogwarts. I thought that was a scandal. They had plectrums, handcrafted plectrums, £12.
What?
How much should they be, these things?
Pound.
If that, yeah.
It's a plectrum, you usually drop it off. Anyway, that's enough. Oh, one other thing I did think. What I've noticed, both these blokes had leads in their guitars because they were electric, and they were straight leads. Now, our headphones are the old traditional curly lead, which I find very handy for extension. I don't think the curly lead... I think the curly lead's gone slightly out of fashion.
Well, I tell you, it reminds me a bit of sort of 1970s businessman arranging his affair on the landline.
Well, it reminds me of, the smoke that comes out the chimney in children's drawings. It's got that lovely feel to it.
The curly lead has gone out of fashion.
It has.
As with female movie stars' hairdos.
What is that not curly anymore?
Very few perms, and you watch a film from the 80s or early 90s, there's always big perm curly hair.
I don't know if the curly lead ever was fully utilised. What else do you see? Security men have them on at the ear, but those are tiny curly leads. I'm not really counting it.
Yes, they were almost, I would go so far as to say they were fetishised in the 80s.
Yes.
There was a vogue for the coloured plug lead. Do you remember this?
No, in the curly mode?
Oh, yes. I remember my best friend Jane, her father Stu, you're familiar with his work, in his office. Oh, it was an 80s haven. White tiling everywhere with curly coloured plug leads. There might have been a red or a blue or a pink. It was an accessory. It was a height of fashion with very curly leads on them.
Well, where would you expect to find a curly lead?
These days?
15. Speaking of smoke coming out of chimneys, I'll ask you this. I need to read the manual to see if I can even bring this up.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank.
Uh-huh.
Elon Musk has tweeted, comedy is now legal on Twitter. So, you know.
Okay. I'd like to...
How do you feel about that?
I'd like to do a series of interviews on the telly a la Louis Theroux's thing now and call it Billionaires. I know. And then interview and just let them be strange.
That's good.
They are strange. Why are they? Is that how you get rich? Is to be strange, or does being rich make you strange?
8, 12, 15.
Very good.
Frank.
So here's my question.
Sorry.
You know, in cowboy films, when you see Native Americans doing smoke signals, Is that a real thing, or was that just invented by Hollywood?
So Pierre might know this.
I think it's a real thing for some groups, but not because there's so many different tribes.
But how does
yes.
it? But how does it?
You put the blanket over.
No, I know how you do it,
Yeah.
but I mean, how do you do letters and words and stuff?
I think there would be more just sort of distress signals and stuff. I don't think.
Okay.
But how would you form the shapes? Is that what you're asking, Frank Skinner?
Well, I know. It's usually the blanket over the smoke, but I mean, you couldn't say it couldn't be Morse code. You couldn't do dot.
It's usually the blanket
Well, in
over
films,
the smoke.
in film. I was just thinking when we were talking about that curly smoke that comes out the chimney in Kids, all joined up writing as the Native Americans. Yeah. No, I just wondered if it was real or if.
I think it'll be sort of like dots, and that's a distress signal or a war signal. But I don't know how complex the messages can get.
No. If there's anyone out there who speaks smoke signal, I'd love to hear from them. So, what else?
Well, a couple of things. 466, lovely curly lead on Paul Simon's bass on the... Oh, Paul Simonon's. Does he mean... isn't it...
Paul Simonon was the Clash.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought it said... In fairness, before I saw the Clash, that
It's
was a
never
forgivable
occurred
mistake.
to me before that Paul Simonon sounds a bit like Paul Simon.
Yes.
You'd think that would have occurred to me, but it didn't.
I didn't see the Clash, so I thought there was a typo. I do apologise. Lovely curly lead on Paul Simonon's bass on the cover of the Clash's London Calling. Much coveted by me when I was wee. That's from Rory.
Yeah, I think it sort of felt like it was like when I first saw the umbrella hat and I thought the handheld umbrella is done. I think when I saw the curly lead, I thought, well, that's it for straight wire.
Yeah.
And no, didn't take it on.
We've also heard... I mean, I don't know if I can even single this one out because, Pierre, it's fair to say it's been overwhelming. So this might be something that we'll have to come to again later in the show, which is Chigate.
Oh, yeah. Now, last week we discussed a cafe in Preston in Lancashire, and it was called Chai Stop because they specialised in chai, the popular drink from the Asian subcontinent. So I said I wasn't happy with Chai Stop, and I think my own suggestion, I will repeat it, was because it was a place that thrived on politeness.
I think we should give us a bit of an introduction because it was certainly unforgettable.
Okay.
What Frank came up with. This is Frank Skinner, comedy legend. Some would say one of the greatest comedians of his generation.
All right.
And this...
I'm not interrupting this bit. Yeah.
Stick around.
This
is what he came up with.
So this is for a very polite place that sells chai. It should be called... Chivalry. It wasn't one of my best. I'm not going to pretend it was. But we did have some very good ones from outsidey worldy. But then the one I noticed that I elected the winner, which was Chai A Little Tenderness, was actually the headline in the Daily Mail. So I felt that I remember once I judged... The only time I judged a stand-up competition... Because I follow the advice, judge ye not, for as ye judge, so shall ye be judged. And the guy was much better than the others. So when we got with the judges, one of whom was Janet Street Porter, I think, I said, well, look, there's only one person in this. He's brilliant. And so he won, and I had my photo took with him and all that. And then after I saw... I think it was Mark Lamar, second mention of the morning. I saw him in the bar and he said, I can't believe you gave it to that bloke. And then he told me where all the jokes had been stolen from. So what can you do? You can't check everything, can you?
Well, Frank, I'll just leave you with this. Just a little trailer here. Danny Tolhurst has got in touch. First line of his tweet, I've been thinking about chivalry all week.
I'm sorry about that. Who is it from? Henry VIII?
It's
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Here's a question. What? Do you have any idea what the perimeters of Shazam, the app, are?
By perimeters, like limitations.
Yeah. Well, I when I was watching the Queen's funeral, there was a piece of music, and I thought, oh, this is a nice bit of music. So I held my phone to the telly with the Shazam. You know the Shazam app, in case you don't know it,
a dignified moment in the day.
Yeah, maybe not many people Shazam the Queen's funeral, but it was respectfully done. And it wouldn't tell me, it didn't recognise the music. And my partner said, oh, that's because it's not like a recording, it's like a live version. I thought you could whistle to Shazam and it would tell you what the tune was. Is that not true?
There's a Google one that you can whistle or hum to, designed with that in mind, which is okay. You can sit and sort of try and do your best to hum famous set music and see if it figures it out.
So you should write a review.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so you don't know what the perimeters of Shazam are?
Well, the producer just nodded at Kath's assertion, so that you couldn't do it with live music. And as she works for Absolute Radio, I'm assuming she knows her onions.
We're saying live music. It's not like Bob Dylan doing Blowing in the Wind with a completely different melody. You know, if you're doing Beethoven's Funeral March, it doesn't change much.
It should.
There's not much improvising with these guys.
No, there's very little jazz.
You say these guys?
You know, these military musicians.
So I think Shazam is often fed the waveforms of pre-recorded music, and it sort of remembers them as opposed to analysing.
Because you would know that. And that's why I love you, Pierre. Because you know that Shazam is fed the waveforms of music. I don't know what that means, but who cares? Who cares what that means? I love it so much. I was... I'll tell you, they talk about the power of literature. I saw a friend of mine, and he got me a gift, and it was a book called Saga. It's not for the elderly. It's a comic book. It's a mighty, omnibus edition. Like, I bet it was, I'm going to say 2.5 inches thick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Can you convert that for us, Pierre? For our younger listener?
7.5 centimetres, I'd say. 7 centimetres.
I find that an unforgettable measurement. I'll tell you why.
Sure.
That was the height. We weren't allowed at my school. We were told heels could not be higher than 2.5 inches.
Oh.
As a result, I'm very good at measuring heel height.
I thought you were going to say, that I believe some schools have 8 inches above the knee skirt regulation.
We had that
as
also.
Well. God, these young women getting dressed next to some sort of the usual suspects wall chart.
I was called in once because I was told, and they had to measure my shoes. They said, we think those heels are past the permitted height. They have a slight, and I was told they have a slight kitten heel.
Oh.
Which they didn't.
Unforgivable.
They were measured, Frank. I sat there and the heel was measured.
It's like in Gulliver's Travels, where two warring groups, the high heels and the low heels. Wow, that's amazing.
They measured them.
Of course, Emily's got the best school skirt anecdote I've ever heard. Do you want to rattle this off quickly, or do you want to wait till after the break?
Why don't we...
Okay. In case some of our older...
You want to trail it, Frank,
I'm
maybe?
Tease it. I'm going to tease it as the best school skirt anecdote of all time. If you've got a better one, then let's hear it, guys.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novellie. You can text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk.
And they have. And we've heard from Ruth Jordan.
Oh, every week we hear from Ruthie.
And I love Ruth. But in this instance, I'm going to have to...
I love Jordan. As was.
I'm going to, in the China White days, I'm going to have to say au contraire, Ruth.
Oh.
Because Ruth has said, I was referring earlier to the school rule I had, no pun intended, with the 2.5-inch maximum on the heel height. And Ruth has said, surely Emily's school only allowed heels of 2.5 centimetres, not inches. If it was 2.5 inches, I'm picturing a load of very tall 12-year-olds. Now, I would say, Ruth, go into your wardrobe. Can you do that for me, lovey? Consult your boots and your block heels and sandals. Get your little tape measure out, because I will wager that you'll find a few, surprisingly, will be coming up to that 2.5-inch mark. Pierre and Frank.
This is a bit awkward if Ruth lives on waste ground. Let's hope that isn't the case.
Regarding smoke signals, we've heard from 6002.
Oh, yeah.
Puff, 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 puff.
I get that text most days. Who is that? Who is that?
Jack Tar Trader says, morning all from sunny Kenya.
Oh.
I'm not sure if this is a moment or just a more general moment of clarity, but it just came to me that 8 out of 10 cats could be called 4 out of 5 cats with a simple fraction reduction. I'm not sure what to do with that information.
That's true. They haven't taken it down to the lowest common denominator, which is something they're strangely famous for. Oh, they don't mind doing it morally, but mathematically. Yeah. Well, you'd have thought that... what's the lady called, Rachel Riley? She might have picked up on that.
It's a part of some sort of NDA. You mustn't mention the fraction.
She told me she got a 2-1 in maths. So, yeah.
What, the lady?
I think she might have said a 2-2. Because I think I said a 2-2 and she said, Carol Vorderman got a 3rd.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Now,
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. 4 out of 5. Well, now, would it be?
well, we should really
4
be...
out of 5.
I should say, Jack, you should be taking issue with the cat. It was a... Are we allowed to say who it was?
Whiskers?
Yeah, we're allowed to say that. It was Whiskers. It was based on their campaign, and obviously the younger generation may not be aware of that. Are you aware of that, Pierre?
No.
There you go.
It was
Frank,
an
would you like
advert
to
that
educate?
it said 8 out of 10 cats prefer Whiskers, is what it used to say. Yeah, but you know what?
So they basically said, I'm having that.
Yeah, but if one accepts some sort of concept of progress, once you've taken it, it's still all right to reduce it to the lowest common denominator. Polish it and make it yours. Never mind.
Now,
It's not my business.
it's not my business.
Anyway, I think it's a good observation.
We've had a few... Oh, Andrew Froggatt, your curly lead thing...
Yeah.
All right. Took me right back to getting a bass from Musical Exchange on Broad Street in 1980.
That was the shop that I used to hang around in on Saturdays. I'll tell you what they had in the window for ages at Musical Exchanges. Dave Hill from Slade, they had his Super Yob guitar, which was a weirdly shaped silver thing.
Very Selfridges at Christmas time.
Would you ever have the confidence to walk into a shop that sold sort of musical instruments and microphones and things, and instead of picking up the guitar and trying out Stairway, just going up to a microphone and doing some bits of stand-up to see how it sounds?
Yeah, exactly. Or walking into a bookshop and...
reading aloud.
Yeah, exactly. She dwelt among the untrodden ways. Pretty good. I'm quite liking it.
I mean,
beside the springs of Darth. Yes.
that does sort of happen in Hampstead and places like that, and it's legal, I reckon.
I've never heard anyone read it out loud in a bookshop, but I often do read poetry out loud, so it'd be completely legitimate for me to go and try it out in the shop, see if it's all right.
That would be fair. I guess you could sit down in front of a shelf of books in a bookshop and then put Zoom on your phone. So how does this look behind me?
Oh, yeah.
How do these look
But you don't
behind
want to
me?
buy a whole bookcase. That'd be crazy.
No.
You end up with like 4 of one book or something. Do they do that in bookshops still?
All in a row.
What's that?
Have the same book 3 or 4 times because it's so popular, or do you have to ask at the desk?
No,
don't answer this because ultimately I don't care about that.
They only-
Sometimes you wonder about things and then you think, doesn't matter, does it, if that happens?
I know the answer anyway, Frank. They only have it on the dump table. Yes, it's an unfortunate phrase, but they're not my choice.
Yes.
But they have it on the dump table.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am leaving it there in case anyone at home is wondering who's having their breakfast.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
What I didn't get to the bottom of was I was walking home alone with my my book, which was 2.5 inches at the spine.
The saga book.
And I saw some hooded youths standing on the pavement. And
Was that in your manor?
Yeah, and I thought if this goes off, I'm going to go in with the book because it was such a big book. I thought if I can get one good hit with this, I think they could. The power of art and literature.
To any passers-by, it would look like a strained metaphor
For
using the power of education to sort of beat away the cruel forces of ignorance.
And you can imagine the friends the next day seeing the guy and saying, God, you look like you've been hit by an omnibus.
I'm sure that's exactly the reference they use.
I honestly think
Hancock.
if this goes off, I'm going to use this book.
So what happened?
Nothing, they didn't. When they saw who it was. They were just mild applause as I went through. A guard of honour.
Golf clapping.
No, they had bigger fish to fry. Did I mention that they had set up a
small stall?
Small stove, Caligas stove. Anyway, what about the skirt story of the century?
So, Pierre, picture the scene.
Actually, it's the last century, I think.
How dare you? Are you suggesting was it your grandmother, Frank, who remembers being at school when the teacher came in and said, girls, there's some very sad news. I'm afraid Queen Victoria has died.
That's right.
There you go.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
I love that. I love examples of my relative was so old that... ...
So, come on.
Okay.
Skirtsville,
Picture
USA.
this in it's not really an adventure park, but it's the playground area, après school of a park setting, specifically Highgate Wood. Lots of children, not just from my school, but from the boys' school. Stakes are high. At that age, we were trying to be a bit cool. And I would say there was probably at least 20 to 30 children gathered. And a dog runs in. Cue much hilarity. Because the dog in the playground, it's funny. We all know that. It's a big thing. It seems to be a stray dog, a bit on the loose. Everyone's going, oh, the dog. Suddenly the dog's showing a bit of an interest in me for some reason. Runs straight towards me, grabs hold of my skirt in its mouth, and before I knew it, has whipped it off round my waist and run into the woods with it in its mouth because it had a wraparound style effect, and I'm stood there in my pants.
Like in a farce.
Like in Bucks Fizz.
Yeah, if I had Making Your Mind Up at my fingertips, I would have played it. But yeah, I mean, obviously...
It's come off in one go?
Because it was a wraparound effect tied with a button. And if the button... So it just came straight off.
I bet that dog had got a pile of skirts 6 foot high in its basket. Humiliating. It does. Yeah. It's one of those stories that does make you wonder about reincarnation.
Yeah.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
We have some communiques
Okay.
from En Plein Air. I don't know if I'd use it in that context. It's only really used in a dining context, is
En
it?
plein air?
Yeah.
Does it mean outdoors? Like al fresco?
Yeah,
or painting.
Exactly. But it's only really... Exactly. I'm not sure you can use it in the way I was. What I was being was pretentious.
There's no such word as pretentious in my vocabulary.
That's why I love your vocabulary. 597.
Pretentious is a word invented by stupid people to stop other stupid people just trying.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Babe, I'd like that on a T-shirt.
That would be great.
Wouldn't you? What could they say if you wore that? Nothing is what they could say.
Well, it could lead to...
I'll tell you what's fallen out of favour, the concept of sued. It was a very 70s. Oh, sued.
Oh, yeah, sued corner, yeah. I thought you meant being sued.
Oh, no, that's still very much in favour.
Still a risk.
597. Hi, Frank. Why not just say 80% and be done with it? That's from Simon of Sudbury.
80% of cats. Yeah, it really begs. You really want to know what that's about, though, don't you?
Yes. If someone muttered it to you as they passed you on a crowded train platform, you'd certainly have questions. 80% of cats.
Smiley's people.
Yes.
Of course, it's one of the great television I'm having that's of all time was 8 out of 10 cats and Countdown.
Yes.
Is there any other example of a programme just hijacking another one like that?
Being eaten by another programme.
Yeah.
Surely they
I'd like some examples if any of our readers have any. 240, also on this subject, the Whiskers advert... they've spelt it ERS. I believe it was AS, wasn't it?
It was.
They put a twist on it.
Yeah, I think it was Gaz.
The Whiskers advert had a little caveat to it, which stated...
Is that the full word for cat? Go on.
Which stated, from owners who expressed a preference...
Yes, it did. It didn't have that originally.
OK, well, the 240 continues, Frank. So cats were forced to eat it, really.
Yeah.
And I should say... Our cat, Danny, was in That's Life, did a test of this. Do you remember the 70s sort of consumer programme presented by Esther Rantzen, That's Life?
I do.
They tested it.
Jake Thackeray was a weekly appearance.
And there was Cyril, remember him?
Oh, yes.
They did an actual test of it. Do 8 out of 10 cats prefer Whiskers?
To what as well?
And in those days, they didn't have those sort of, you say we pay rules. They just said they rung their friends, people on the show, and just said, can you bring your cat along?
Yeah.
So we did. So I believe...
so your cat was on the telly?
I think Esther Rantzen called my dad and said, you've got a cat, haven't you? Can you bring one along? That's how we did things then.
Yes. That's why they didn't call us. My cat had 3 legs and a clothes peg supporting the missing leg.
Our cat was a Burmese with a diamante collar.
That would have been a whole different show. That would have been hijack. That would have been... That's Life hijacking Animal Hospital in the same way as 8 out of 10 cats does Countdown.
They would have had to say 80% of this cat is not a clothes peg.
Yeah, it's hard to make that theme run every week. Not that it could run, the poor thing. See, it was coming off as a shame. Fought a lot. Don't fight. Anti-violence on Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner. Absolute Radio.
6199 regarding your Shazam queries. Says, hi Frank and team, I also wondered what a piece of music was during the Queen's funeral. So
sorry, that sounds like what a piece of music he is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a real sort of jukebox event in lots of ways. There was some, I think funereal music can be really hot stuff.
Yeah, well...
I beg your pardon.
They tried to use Google, which told them it was Gary Barlow and Sing, whereas it was actually Highland Cathedral by a pipe band.
Yeah.
It took a few tries before it got it right, Maggie in Swansea.
Yeah, that's really wrong, though, isn't it?
That's quite far from correct.
Yeah, quite far from correct. That would be a good title for a rather loose with the facts autobiography. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm still reeling from funeral music can be pretty hot stuff.
Well,
It's getting hot in here.
What's that James Bond film where every time a funeral goes past, a secret agent gets
Is it Live and Let Die?
attacked? I don't know.
It feels like
I think it's more modern than that. It's sort of like one of those... Whoa, what would it be? You know those sort of New Orleans funerals?
Live and let die. Live and let die.
Yeah.
It's live and let die.
I'm not sure.
I am. There's a man on the train at the end. It's the fight.
What time is the show?
It is live and let die. Can our readers please confirm?
By the way, sprechen, as they say in Germany, spreckening of caveats, as you were earlier, and I often wear one. Whatever happened to people of a nervous disposition? We're always being warned before things on the telly. People of a nervous disposition shouldn't watch this programme.
Oh, yes.
Where have they gone? Are they all so frightened they don't even watch telly at all now?
They've all just burst.
Yeah, exactly. They're on the roof. Why warn them? They can't see anything from up there.
Well, it's changed now because it's anxiety. But people will often say, because back in the day as well, they'd say, oh, my nerves. You know, the mothers would say that a lot.
Yes.
Oh, my nerves.
Yeah.
I love people of a nervous disposition, though. Where are they?
I don't know. What's the warning now?
It's a good point. That's the original trigger warning, isn't it?
Was it?
Well, everyone talks about trigger warnings as if they're new, but
no, that was around for
the
ages.
Nervous Dispositions were around. Great band.
The original trigger warning was, of course, the Red Triangle, Frank. Do you recall?
I don't know if that was the original, but that was I think Channel 4 used it for Smot. Yeah.
Was that what the film was called?
Well, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Well, the big red triangle would appear on screen.
In the corner saying, watch out.
Really?
If there was if there was a film, and that was pretty much what I watched, but it meant this contains
sauciness,
adult content, Frank, maybe?
Well, they had a series called Banned or something, which I anticipated with some enthusiasm.
I was going to say, I love the or something in an attempt to sound
And then
uninvolved.
episode 1 was a formerly banned documentary about the miners' strike.
Oh.
Well, I mean...
Oh, Frank!
Yeah, don't build it up and then... I'd put aftershave on and everything. Dip the lights down low.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Pierre,
yes.
I feel we haven't spoken of your life this week.
Outside these four walls.
Yes.
But I'd like some music that would represent Pierre at some stage.
Well, I don't know what's been happening to him.
No. But what about something, Frank, that gives a flavour of the man?
Okay.
You're simply the best.
There's that. We used to have, I don't know if people remember, but we used to have our own sort of personal jingles for the show. This was mine.
He's the loneliest man in the world.
Nevertheless,
I like Simply the Best for Pierre because it's very...
do you want to hear
It's quite
Emily's?
confident.
I would like to hear Emily's.
Well, she's all you'd ever want. She's the kind I'd like to flaunt and take to dinner.
Low carb.
Yes. Yeah. Cheap date.
For this particular, for what I've been up to, Walk Like an Egyptian would be the song of choice because I've been, Frank, to the British Museum to look at all the hieroglyphs.
Oh, okay.
Special exhibit at the moment about how they decoded the hieroglyphs.
Oh, yeah. I used to... there's a blue plaque. When I used to bus to school in the morning, there's a blue plaque which refers to something. It's one of those that sounds like Grampus 8, and it's a technical name. Grampus 8 is a Japanese football team. It's not that. It's a technical name for a certain thing that some translator recognised. Ring any bells?
Oh. Were they to do with hieroglyphs?
Yes.
Oh.
Stop, I don't like this part of the conversation. It's too tortured.
I quite like it because it's slightly like when you'd sometimes tune in by mistake to BBC Two and watch those Open University programmes with two professors having discussions. That's what it sounded like. So you should have had kipper ties on, and you should have had beards that smelled of smoke.
I wouldn't mind a kipper tie.
Very
Can you make us one?
Do you know what? I'm starting to look back on chivalry with misty watercoloured memories.
Well, it might have been the guy. A surprising amount of the exhibit focused on there's a Frenchman and an Englishman who are sort of racing each other to decipher the hieroglyphs first and sending each other terse letters.
Okay.
Accusing the other of being insufficiently grateful for their insights.
That's what academics do, isn't it?
Yeah.
They just fight, snipe at each other all the time.
But over letter, they do it so eloquently as well.
They used to do it through journals and things.
Yeah.
Oh, do they not tell them?
Picky. That's what they are.
Yeah.
There's
Pickypedia. That's what they edit. Anyway, carry on.
Well, there's some great stuff there. Sincerely, one of the most amazing things is a piece of pottery with hieroglyphs on. That's from, I think, 5,200 BC.
That's old, isn't it?
I remember looking at it and thinking, that's 3.5 Christianities old.
That's a great measure. Now, what's that in inches, Emily?
How many Christianities were your shoes allowed to be up in the air?
Hey, don't make me the inch monitor.
What's that in-
All right, lads.
What's that in Mormons?
All right, lads. Okay.
What about the length of religion?
All right, I don't want to be the length monitor either. I like that Pierre said there's some great stuff there of the British Museum exhibition.
To be fair, a lot of it they've got lent. They've got lent from bits from France, bits from Egypt, bits from Germany.
Oh, Frank likes that.
They've really gone for it.
You love Lent,
It
Frank.
makes a change that it makes a change that they're using stuff that they plan to give back.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novellie. Text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk.
Very nice. Smooth.
Yeah, I might get me some of those terms and conditions voiceover jobs. Anyway, you're at the British Museum.
I'm at the British Museum. I'm wandering the hieroglyphed alleyways that have been set up for the public's pleasure.
Just a quick pit stop for me. You don't strike me as one to take advantage of the guide. He's not the type, Frank, is he?
I can't imagine him with the audio guide.
No, the
in a
audio
million
guide.
years.
He would see that as a bit amateur.
No,
Whereas I would
exactly.
need it,
I
frankly.
don't want to be next to a bloke, in this case Pierre, going when he doesn't agree with their interpretation.
I think he might even mutter and go, I think you're fine.
Yes.
Going around with a Sharpie, just correcting the exhibits.
Complete misinterpretation.
He's braved it. He's braved the accent. I didn't go there, but he braved it. Respect.
I'm just happy that it's in an academic context instead of sport or violence. That's just a nice change.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So, I'm going around with my pen correcting the various captions.
Yeah.
And you sort of have to
Were
move.
all the captions in hieroglyphics?
It was part of the challenge, yeah. They said, see if you can do it. It was
Oh,
cool.
them little figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, birds and hands. And
Yeah.
you're going around, and the two things that happened of note, I'll tease the funny one, which is I overheard something, a grandmother was taking her granddaughter around the exhibit. Her granddaughter was maybe 7 or 8, which is quite ambitious.
Oh, yeah, that is ambitious.
But, good for her. But before that, they have the Rosetta Stone in the British Museum.
Yes.
Which was the key to decoding hieroglyphics. And is incredibly important. And I hadn't realized that it was yet another artifact that they discovered when they were just building a fort somewhere.
Okay.
Or pulling something down. And I did think, what is it with people all over the world and using clearly very valuable, interesting bits of stonework as chunks in a wall? You think, are there no plain rocks for you to use in a wall? The Elgin marbles, they were in a fort as well.
I know, people don't care. They just don't care.
I don't care. No respect. What's the matter, you? Hey, gotta no respect.
I went to a Roman villa
Oh, yes.
and the guy said, yeah, there was a whole settlement around here. I said, so there must be loads of artifacts around here, like in the ground. And he went, safest place for him.
How he said
And I thought, well, why did you dig the villa out? That's your attitude.
Leave it all then.
It's probably a good point.
Yeah.
That they are quite safe there.
They do fill stuff back in sometimes if it's too fiddly for the technology we have now.
Too fiddly for crows.
Yeah.
Sorry, there used to be a slogan, too orangey for crows on Kiora. Do you remember Kiora, Emily?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay, lovely.
I have to say it's more my area, Kiora.
Yeah, aye. So
we're wandering the exhibit, and I'm maybe 4 or 5 patrons behind the grandmother and her granddaughter. And
when you said the grandmother, I thought that was some sort of a slang.
really big B. That's in there.
we call it the grandmother.
Yeah.
It's been in the BM for decades. They just can't get it out. It's because they built that atrium.
Go on.
So we're going, and we sort of form a semicircle around the Rosetta Stone.
Oh, how lovely, Pierre.
The crowd sort of pools around the Rosetta Stone.
Can I say I did have quite an emotional moment at the Rosetta Stone about 3 or 4 years ago, because my son had studied it at school. He's only like 6 or something. And I said, I'll take you to see it. And we went and he pushed his way through a crowd of adults and went, oh, wow, the Rosetta Stone. And virtually everyone in there went, oh. It's just really nice and kid appreciating that.
But see, that is exactly what I was after.
Right.
Because I'd seen this dynamic and I thought, what I want is a heartwarming, intergenerational, educational moment.
Yes.
And I thought, here we go. We're standing around the Rosetta Stone. It's time. And the sort of 7 or 8-year-old stood sort of contemplating the Rosetta Stone, frowning. And the grandmother leant down and sort of on her knees. This is more like a sort of tough grandma than a loving grandma. That was her vibe, I'd say. And she pointed at it and said, do you know what that is? And the girl shook her head and she said, it's a very famous stone and it's not going anywhere. That was it.
Okay.
Did she then say, now we're going to look at the Elgin marbles?
Yeah.
And you'll find same rule applies.
You'll find a theme is developing in Nana's
You're
trip.
going to say.
It's not going anywhere.
Grandma said, that's just what I need for the hole in my garden wall.
Yes.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
That plaque, I found it. It's Michael Ventris. And it says, architect and decipherer of Linear B script lived here, which I think is one of those...
That sounds like cuneiform to me.
Cuneiform, you say?
That's going to be my guess.
What's that?
It's the... is it Assyrian or Babylonian script? It looks
I
like
thought
lots of
that
little
was. I thought that was what
things
they were
cut
on a
into it.
Cunard cruise. A cuneiform.
Cuneiform.
Oh, that would be good.
It's the shape of your body after a long cruise.
It's what the people, the marshals on the Queen Line in State Queue all wore. The cuneiform.
Do you know what? I've said this before and I'll say it again. I love a marshal. Don't you, Frank? The marshal, by definition, would you suggest it was a temporary role? By definition.
Yes.
Would you?
And for me, no tabard, no marshal. That's my motto.
That's your back tattoo, isn't it?
Exactly.
Who's your favourite tabard wearer? Pierre, I'd like to ask you that question as well.
Do you
If you
mean
could
by
give it some
name or
thought.
profession?
Profession, the sort of event they work. I don't need an instant answer. I'll let you mull on that while I just share this with you. 848. Frank, was it Chedworth of which you speak? Little Roman settlement at the top of a valley near the Cotswolds.
Yes.
Nice mosaic floors. That's from
Yes.
Matt, who
Nice.
says cheers.
That's exactly right. I think it was Chedworth.
Okay.
Well done, you.
Dinner ladies, tabard wise.
But do they have... Is there one across the board? I mean, perhaps. I think of it as
Is
a
there a dinner lady
colour.
across the board? Not anymore.
I think of it as sort of come as you are more with the dinner lady. And also they're called something else now, aren't they?
Oh,
Are they?
almost certainly. You
Yeah.
couldn't have dinner lady.
What do you feel they're called now?
They're
Lunch
called
people.
Lunches.
hospitality vendors, I should imagine. Yeah, and quite right too.
Anyway.
What
Yes, that's it. A lovely moment there. One of the Gen Zeder on the team.
Yes.
I'm afraid, Sarah, there is only one now. that ship has sailed, love. It happens to us all. She has just scribbled down in a notebook, lunchtime supervisor.
Oh,
Really?
Nice.
That's
That was
very
very-
formal.
It is. Yeah. Well, it would be, but that's good.
I love a lunchtime supervisor.
I would like to. I'd like to talk about a news thing, and something I was very interested to see this week, which I did not. Do you remember some time ago I was talking about what a rubbish lectern Boris Johnson used outside Number 10 for various announcements? It really looked like one of those plywood 3-star hotel corporate meeting room lecterns.
It was very trouser press.
I didn't know, but it turns out that every prime minister gets to choose their own lectern.
As a special perk.
Yeah, and apparently at Tory party HQ, they keep all the lecterns as a sort of for their. I think they use them for their. They have a lot of Kraftwerk tribute nights. And so they've got them. They've kept them so you can go and see who are the Tory, Boris's lectern,
David Cameron.
yeah, Liz Truss is apparently.
Theresa May.
The paper said.
Frank, you didn't finish my sentence.
Sorry.
Theresa May.
Thanks for the tip. And Liz Truss's. They've got Liz Truss's. Lectern, which is actually made from ice and lasted the whole run, which I thought showed tremendous foresight. Something she didn't show that much.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We're going to return to the lectern.
Can I say before the lectern
Sure.
that I, as soon as we went off air, Pierre said to me, what was the name of that Linear B guy? So I said Michael Ventris. And I saw him looking him up and I heard Pierre go, I thought so. Marvellous. Anyway, sorry.
Briefly, 848. Frank, we are 3 weeks from the WC. And you know what he means
World
by
Cup,
that.
yeah.
And as the writer of our anthem and custodian of our broken dreams, could you hazard a prediction, could you, Eden, it, of the chances of it actually coming home this time? I realise you get asked this a lot. I'm just saying we're going to get this question a lot, Frank, so I'm going to field them, but that's just an early one for you.
Well, as I once heard a Scottish historian say when asked if there'd ever be another Scottish Enlightenment, the future is not my period. So, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Meanwhile,
A lovely message just with regards to me being, playing to type.
Yes.
Harry in Brooklyn, of all places, gets in touch, which is very cool, isn't it? Quite thrilling.
Yeah, very.
well, it is for us, Pierre. We don't normally get Brooklyn, Frank.
Yeah. Harry from Brooklyn says, hello team, I wanted to call attention to a moment from last week that I think perfectly encapsulates the show.
Okay.
So this is Harry's attempt to perfectly encapsulate
Guess we get
the
ready
show.
for the producers reach for a pen for the trailer.
Frank was recounting his trip on the Ulysses ferry to Ireland and said he was intimidated by the ferryman. Emily interjected with, oh, don't pay him, referencing the 1982 song Don't Pay the Ferryman by Chris de Burgh. Pierre then replied with, Charon, which is the name of the ferryman of the underworld in ancient Greek mythology. Absolute radio, says Harry.
I think Who Pays the Ferryman comes from a bit earlier than Chris de Burgh, by the way.
Don't Pay the Ferryman. He does reference it in his song. He has a song called Don't Pay the Ferryman, I believe.
But there's a
But it
literary...
yes.
it John Donne or something Who
Yes,
Pays
I
the
believe
Ferryman?
so.
Anyway,
Well, you see, that was back in the day with the rock stars. They loved a literary
I
reference.
think we've just given Harry more food for thought there.
more
Fuel,
food for
yeah.
thought. So, meanwhile, back at the lectern, you were saying, Frank, because Rishi has gone...
He's gone for austerity clipboard. Does one of them look too posh with a lectern?
It's gone
reads
a
off
bit
the back of an
make
aid.
do and mend. It's gone a bit make do and mend because I believe it usually takes 3 to 4 weeks, doesn't it, to order these things?
Oh, and it's quite a big, quick turnaround. This is like when you get 3 batsmen go quite quickly and the next guy hasn't got his pants on yet. Hasn't it? Rishi's come out in a string vest. Hello?
Rubbing sleep from his eyes.
Well, speaking of austerity, I went in a shop and they had a section in the shop that I thought was sort of somewhat bleak about it. It's actually said across the top, lottery and tobacco. Ooh. And I thought, just that's how you get through. How are we going to get through it?
Oh, dear.
Oh. Let's not end on that.
No, please.
Okay, here's my favourite bit. Okay. Gordon Brown had a lectern on wheels.
Oh, yeah?
And I love the idea that he'd actually be coming through the door having already begun. I like that. And then there was the time that, hello, didn't realise there was anyone. I'm just having a little wander around. Hello, by the way, the economy.
Like a Segway.
You know that thing he does? Yeah.
Well, I've got more I'd like to talk about with that lectern on wheels. Because it made me physically ill.
On wheels? My Liz Truss was there so short. She should have had... You know when people do the knowledge and they have those little perspex lecterns? She should have just gone past on a moped. No need to switch the engine off, Liz.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So we're talking about the revolving lectern. There have been so many in recent years, haven't there?
I hadn't noticed, though, that they have their own, that you choose the one you want.
Do you think Rishi might go for a sort of Game of Thrones, sort of forged of the destroyed swords of his many enemies sort of lectern?
Yeah.
Sort of spikes and things.
I think maybe a non-recyclable plastic one that he can throw straight into the ocean afterwards.
The dolphin choker, it's called.
I tell you what he won't do, because my favourite lectern, and probably all our favourite lecterns, are those ones when you put the stuff on an eagle's back.
Yes.
Frank, do you know... I love the eagle at school.
Yeah, why doesn't I suppose they're worried that they might, the image of a subservient eagle might upset Joe Biden and affect the trade deal.
You don't want the eagle in a servile position, it's true.
Would that be called a spread eagle? That, the wings out like that?
Well, I think it's fabulous.
I suppose it must be.
Absolutely fabulous work, Frank.
So Dumbledore's, which is an owl, would that be called a spread owl? Oh. Never hear that.
It's not my area.
Dumbledore's has got candles on as well. I mean, they don't do many night speeches, the Prime Minister, but can you imagine an owl and candles? I mean, that would be fun.
Some scented ones.
Just for the Halloween.
Yeah,
just for the
Halloween announcements, exactly.
Maybe some spider web. You know, joke shop. Joke shop spider's web.
And the candles, make sure they've got plenty of wax running down the side, like the covered bottles in tavernas.
Yes.
And when they turn round at the end, Frank, it's a tradition that they have a little Vincent Price laugh and the fangs. Little intro with the punters.
That's good.
Can I just say something, though? The wood troubled me.
Right.
Rishi's wood was, I would call it a sort of caravan kitchenette.
Okay.
I don't like that colour wood.
What is it, light? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a light, cheap wood.
Okay.
Boris at least went for the sort of 1970s TV. It's teak, we know where we stand.
Yeah.
It's not great. But I don't like that. I think they've got that wrong. He didn't have time, Frank.
No, that's probably a caretaker lectern.
Man in the 70s bringing on the audio-visual equipment.
Yeah, well, the guy that does bring it on, of course, doesn't wear what we used to call a cow gown, a brown, those brown long coats and a cap. In fact, he's become some sort of thingamabob.
Are you referring to Hot Podium Guy?
Hot Podium Guy, even though it isn't a podium.
Yes, this was pointed out in terse terms by the article. A podium is what athletes stand upon.
Yes.
Is that a friend of yours?
Well, not just athletes, but yeah. It's what you stand on. It's a raised... Like a dais.
Yes.
I like that... a Reuben, as we call it. I like that Hot Podium Guy is called Tobias. And he's 39.
Is he?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that celebrity is losing a little bit of its specialness in recent years. You just have to really work for it. Or kill someone. But no.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, we've had Raul Miranda getting in touch regarding the lecterns. Raul says, favourite lectern, Truss, by a goddamn mile. Gorgeous it was. Everything you could want from a lectern.
I have to say, she did go for a good one. It's a shame that's been used up.
Yeah.
She went for the sort of a bit of medieval castle, spiral staircase sort of thing, was it?
Well, we were just
Jenga?
talking. I can't remember which Disney film. Is it Merlin in Sword of the Stone? And when they go to his place, he's got teetering piles of books.
I don't know, but I've never heard it referred to before as his place.
Merlin's place.
I mean, I would say, yeah, you know, Merlin, I was back at his place. Tell us some bachelor pad.
Yeah,
His place.
but
What do you think of Mickey Mouse's place, Frank?
well, there's a Mickey Mouse Funhouse.
Yeah.
Step inside, it's fun inside. Yeah.
Cheeky to rhyme inside with inside.
No, rubbish.
At least the trust.
But they did write MICKEYMOUSE,
Yeah.
which I've always loved.
Yeah. The truss lectern, though, fetch a good price. Only used twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And you get a free copy of the Beatles' Hello, Goodbye with it. Celebrated its two uses.
Good as new.
It is a nice one now. Fair play to Liz. I might call her in as a lectern consultant if I was Rishi.
Todd Nikolic has got in touch in reference to the Gordon Brown lectern, which is already established was sort of a child's desk on wheels.
Can I, if I may interrupt? I was recently at St Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin, which is where Jonathan Swift, the great writer of Gulliver's Travels, etc., was dean for many years.
I call it St Patrick's Place. Just FYI.
And Jonathan Swift had a lectern, had a pulpit rather, on wheels, and he had instructed to minions that if he saw anyone sleeping in the congregation, they would push him over towards that person, and he would shout. They would increase the volume until they woke up. That would be. I don't know if you've ever seen Jonathan Swift. He's a terrifying, big, eyebrow, scary bloke. You don't want to be woken up by him shouting at you.
It's a sort of preaching Dalek.
Exactly.
Drifting across the tiles.
Well, it's a bit like the Pope Mobile, but I don't think Jonathan Swift would have liked that comparison.
No, an immodest proposal.
Todd has said, I love, in reference to Gordon Brown's flimsy lectern on wheels with the extending wire. The cable is what upsets me.
He needs a curly cable. That's what he needs.
Todd says, I love how it has stabilising screws on the bottom like a pub table so you don't spill your pint.
I never noticed the stabilising screws. Norman Stanley Fletcher, 1976. Carry on.
Yeah. A lot of people pointing out the truss one obviously resembled Jenga, as it was so symbolic, which we're obviously aware of. But let's, Theresa May, let us please, attention must be paid, because that was a very good wood.
Okay, I don't remember the...
It was a sort of, I call it hyacinth bouquet dining table.
Oh.
You know, that gleaming, very polished, beautiful.
Yeah. I'd still go for the eagle if it was me, but...
it's a bit grand for us, Frank.
It isn't going to be me, let's face it.
Regret and slight surprise in his voice.
Oh, no, I'd rather work on the toilet cleaning duty. Full respect to anyone who does that, by the way. You know what? If the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.